My African-American wife humiliated me at dinner, so I, an African-American man, walked out and destroyed her entire friend group in one night.
It's strange, isn't it? How a marriage can just end, not with a bang, but in a place filled with clinking wine glasses, soft music, and overpriced pasta. The place was called Morello's. It was my wife Sophie's favorite spot to show off her new designer heels and the curated personality she wore like a costume. And it was there on a rainy Tuesday night that I had finally reached the absolute end of my rope. The rain outside was hammering against the windows, almost like it was trying to warn me. But I was already too late. I just sat there quietly, pushing food around my plate that tasted like cardboard. Meanwhile, Sophie, the woman I had called my wife for 15 long years, was holding court with her friends. She was entertaining them by diminishing me, making me sound like some charity case she'd generously decided to sponsor. "David's sweet," she said, swirling her wine, a smirk playing on her lips. "But he's just beneath my level. I mean, I close million-dollar deals, and he fixes computers." Her friends, Jade and Rebecca, nodded along like they were her personal backup singers, their heads bobbing in perfect, synchronized agreement. I didn't react. Not then. I just kept my face neutral, a blank canvas. But then Rebecca leaned in, her voice a conspiratorial whisper. "What about that real estate guy, Ethan? He seems much more your speed." And Sophie, she blushed. I mean, she actually blushed, a girlish flush creeping up her neck. A blush I hadn't seen directed at me in years. "Oh, he's just a colleague," she breathed out, and that breathy tone was the final nail in the coffin. That's when I knew. This wasn't just disrespect anymore. She was cheating on me. I slowly set down my fork, the small sound cutting through their laughter. I looked at the three of them, dead in the eyes. "You're right," I said, my voice calm, almost unnervingly so. "Sophie does deserve someone at her level." I reached into my jacket and pulled out 2 thick manila envelopes, placing them on the table between us. The gold candlelight flickered off their edges, like a spotlight on a revelation. "In this envelope," I said, sliding the first one toward her, "are the divorce papers I filed this afternoon." Sophie froze mid-sip. Jade audibly gasped. Rebecca dropped her fork with a clatter. "And in this one," I continued, pushing the second envelope forward, "is the deed transfer for our house. It will be donated to Habitat for Humanity first thing tomorrow morning." Sophie finally found her voice, sputtering. "David, what are you—" I cut her off. "I'm finishing what you started," I said, standing up from the table. I tossed a few 20s down. "That should cover my meal. It was nice dining with you, ladies." She lunged, trying to grab my arm, her voice rising to a shriek. "You can't just walk away." I pulled my arm back gently. "Oh, but I can," I said, looking right at her. "While you were out finding yourself, I was making sure you could never take me for a fool again." You see, what Sophie never understood, what she never bothered to ask, was that while she saw me as this naive, quiet computer guy, I was actually the head of digital security for several major corporations. That meant I understood things she couldn't even comprehend: asset movement, financial vulnerabilities, legal loopholes, and exactly how to make money disappear to places she would never, ever reach it. Her precious BM, already donated to a missionary group operating overseas. Her collection of designer jewelry, pawned off at 3 different locations across the state. Our joint accounts, emptied completely, drained and donated to a dozen different charities in a series of untraceable microtransactions. Sophie's shriek turned into a full-blown scream, loud enough to make the chandeliers rattle. I turned and walked out of Morello's with the lightest heart I'd felt in over a decade. For the next 3 days, I spent all my time at Mike's boxing gym. That place was my sanctuary. It smelled like sweat, worn leather, and raw honesty. Every punch I threw at the heavy bag felt like I was purging the last 15 years of my toxic marriage from my system. And while I was rebuilding myself physically, I was launching the real plan. Because humiliating Sophie at dinner. Oh, that was just the introduction? She wanted a war? She was about to get one she could never win. My first target was Ethan Morrison, Mr. Real Estate Romance himself. I followed him, digitally and physically, and I tore his perfect little world down, brick by brick. I remotely sabotaged his Tesla, leaving him stranded on the side of the freeway. I exposed his shady real estate listings to the state regulators. I sent anonymous, detailed tips to the licensing boards about his unethical practices. I systematically ruined his online presence and crippled his client base. In the span of a single week, he went from a silver-templed charmer to a sleepless, paranoid wreck. Meanwhile, Sophie's calls kept coming. They started with begging, then moved to threats, and finally dissolved into hysterical crying. I ignored every single one. My focus was elsewhere. I hacked her text messages with her best friend, Jade, and the truth became crystal clear. Jade wasn't just her friend, she was her co-conspirator. She was consulting Sophie on how to fabricate evidence for the divorce, how to create false narratives to make me look bad, how to hide her affair expenses, and ultimately, how to destroy me financially in court. But then I found something none of them expected, the ultimate betrayal, Jade and Ethan. They were also sleeping together, behind Sophie's back. 3 snakes all coiled together in one cage, each one ready to strike the others. It was perfect. Their final, public downfall was set to take place at the Riverside Children's Hospital Charity Gala. It was a huge, glamorous event that Sophie was counting on to repair her shattered public image. I made sure I was the last guest to arrive. I walked through the grand entrance carrying a simple laptop bag. The event director, Mrs. Chun, who I'd been in contact with, introduced me to the crowd as a technology consultant here to give a special presentation on transparency in charitable giving. It was the perfect cover. I walked onto the stage, connected my laptop to the massive projector, and the screen flickered to life, illuminating the entire ballroom. And then I exposed everything. The crowd gasped as slide after slide revealed it all. Sophie cheating with Ethan, Ethan's illegal business deals, Jade's PR manipulation tactics, their combined financial fraud. I showed their text messages, their plans to fabricate evidence against me, and their vicious betrayal of each other. I even had video, Jade and Ethan embracing in a parking garage. Ethan having a drunken meltdown on a phone call. Sophie's messages where she plotted my complete destruction. The ballroom erupted. Sophie screamed my name, a sound of pure horror. Jade tried to sneak out, but all eyes were on her. Ethan, blinded by rage, attempted to storm the stage, but he slipped on a spilled drink and crashed right through a cocktail table as half the city's elite filmed him on their phones. I ended my presentation with a toast. I raised an imaginary glass to the stunned crowd. To loyalty, integrity, and the true cost of betrayal. The room was roaring with whispers as I unplugged my laptop and simply walked out. Sophie's entire world, her reputation, her social standing, it all collapsed in the span of about 10 minutes. Ethan's career died right there on that ballroom floor. Jade's PR firm lost its top clients within hours. Reputation destruction, complete. Days later, Sophie called me one last time. Her voice was hollow, a ghost of its former self. "Why?" she whispered. "Why did you do this to me?" I replied calmly, "I didn't destroy you, Sophie. I just stopped protecting you from yourself," she started sobbing. "I lost everything." "No," I said, my voice firm. "You gambled everything. I just showed everyone your cards." As I hung up the phone, I looked out my window at the clean night sky. The rain was finally gone. The streets were washed clean, and the air was fresh. For the first time in so many years, I could finally, truly breathe. I didn't win because I was cruel. I won because I stopped playing their manipulative game, and instead I forced them to play mine. Some men break in silence. Others rebuild themselves piece by piece, and a rare few learn how to set the entire board on fire and walk away without ever getting burned. Turns out, I was the third kind. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like and subscribe for more.